And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the We Believe Digital Studios and the twice weekly news break program. My name is Chris Young. Got 30 minutes of news stories to deliver to you today. Kind of gleaned these stories off of multiple sources, let you know about them as we go along. And we'll start off on the local level with Jackson and Hinds County, Mississippi. It is definitive now after a close race for the position of Public Service Commissioner for the Central District. Our candidate, DeKeither Stamps, has won the race according to the Associated Press. Associated Press has declared the race for DeKeither Stamps, receiving 131,727 votes, while the incumbent, Republican Brent Bailey, had received 129,593. Bailey is not conceding. He feels like there's still some of the process remaining, and the vote hasn't been certified, and so he's not conceding. DeKeither Stamps thanking all the voters for placing confidence in him. DeKeither Stamps now the first black man ever in the state of Mississippi to hold the position of Public Service Commissioner at any of the districts. So this is Central District, but first time ever. So congratulations to DeKeither Stamps. You know, he's been on this platform many times. We look forward to having him back again when he's in his new role. And this comes to us from WJTV. In Clinton, also WJTV, Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality Permit Board voted 4-2 on yesterday to approve the expansion of a landfill in the city of Clinton. And boy, this has been going on. Faircloth Rubbish Landfill Incorporated can now double their landfill surface area at their location off Spring Ridge Road. Officials said adding another 26 acres to the current space will add about 20 years of service longevity. Residents and business owners have been fighting the expansion for decades. They cited lingering trash, strong stench, noise with heavy machinery, air quality, toxic water among their complaints. So this has been going on for a very long time and for decades, according to WJTV. But you got to have some place to put that trash. So anyway, that decision's been made, and they'll be moving forward with that. A little talk about gas prices. Stacker keeps statistics on all this stuff, and Stacker say gas price in Jackson metro area using data from the American Automobile Association. Gas prices are, as of day before yesterday, current gas in Jackson on an average of $2.81. The Mississippi average is 3 cents more than that. The weekly change for Jackson is down 6 cents, or 2.2%. The yearly change, the gas is down 38 cents a gallon, or 12%. Pardon me. So we take the good news when it comes. Continues to be sad news for the family members of Jalen Burns. A second suspect in the shooting death of JSU student Jalen Burns has been released. The alleged getaway driver Apparently, they didn't have enough evidence to hold him. Was discharged on Monday with no bond after being arrested in October. The investigators said the fatal shooting happened at University Point apartment complex October 15th. According to Burns' father, his son was trying to stop a fight when his life was cut short. Burns was an industrial technology major from Chicago, Illinois, apparently very popular, the head of numerous student organizations, and very involved in campus. And so far, 2 different people have been arrested and then released due to lack of evidence. Case still open, and the wound is still open for the Burns family. When we open the lens a little bit to the broader Mississippi front, always reminding you that today is yet another day that the Republican legislators have elected not to hold any hearings on the largest fraud in the history of Mississippi. You just can't make that up. The largest fraud perpetrated in this state, somewhere between $77 and $94 million of money that was sent to us by the federal government over time to help the poorest children and poorest families in the state of Mississippi. The TANF program, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. And Republican elected officials and their appointees turned that federal safety net money into a slush fund for their own pet projects. And not one Republican official want to hold a hearing. Have you ever heard of such a thing? And this is why Mississippi is still sizzling. These guys don't want, these are all vastly majority white people, if not 100% white people, stealing money from the poorest among us. They all call themselves Christians, and they all Republican, and nobody's saying a word about it. Now, the Democrats have held 2 hearings so far. Another one a couple of months ago was promised for either this month or next month. So we'll see if that pans out, a 3rd hearing by the Democrats. But Republicans who hold the keys over there at the Capitol hold the keys to our state coffers. No hearings on that. Just got to keep you up. Just got to keep reminding you on that. Can never let the pressure off these critters. They're not acting in our best interests. They don't care about us. They're selfish people. They're not true Christians. They can't possibly be true Christians and behave like that. To steal money from the poorest, earmarked for the poorest people in the state. You can't. You just can't. The normal brain can't grasp something like that. And then when you get caught, you don't want to get to all the ins and outs. Well, we kind of know why that is, right? On Monday was supposed to be a day that Betterston Wade would finally get a measure of peace. Instead, she suffered another indignity. Wade and her lawyers had arranged with Hinds County officials to exhume the remains of her son. Dexter Wade, 37, been struck and killed by a Jackson police officer and buried in a pauper's field in Raymond at the county penal farm without her knowing about it. They agreed that on 11:30 Monday, they would exhume the body. But they never told her. Apparently, they exhumed the body earlier and never told her about it. Of course, everybody says it's miscommunication, but I mean, how much can you make this woman suffer? She says, it makes me feel like I don't exist. It doesn't matter that I'm his mother. It didn't matter to them. They act like that's their child, and they're really the one who decides what happens to him. I didn't have any rights or say. But Ben Crump is on the case now, and Ben Crump going to get some accountability. Ben Crump calls for a Department of Justice investigation into how the police handled Dexter Wade's death. You know, our Mayor Lumumba, has said that, you know, it was miscommunication, that many attempts were made to contact the family, many things. He said he expressed deep regret for all this happening. But Ben Crump says, it's just not enough. And he was run over by a police car and buried in a pauper's grave, and that he's going to be given a proper funeral, said Crump, who's now the family's lawyer. Now, this next story, kind of a national story, but it really it involves both of Mississippi senators. So, you know, the Senate has had enough. This comes from NBC News out of Washington. The Senate has had enough of Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville's 9-month blockade of military nominations and promotions, saying that he's doing that over the Pentagon's abortion travel policy. But they haven't yet agreed on how to fix it. It appears there's about 650 nominations and promotions that one person is holding up. So the Democrat-led Senate Rules Committee voted yesterday 9-7 along party lines to change a rule Tuberville has used to single-handedly block these nominations and promotions. Under the proposed rules, the Senate would temporarily be allowed to approve promotions in a group with a simple majority, clearing the path for the bulk approval of the nonpartisan nominees. But it must get at least 60 votes on the floor to go into effect, and it's unclear there will be enough Republican votes to advance it. Republicans on the Rules Committee blame the problem primarily on Biden administration policy and argued the proposal isn't narrow enough. Both Mississippi Senators Roger Wicker and Cindy Hyde-Smith voted against the rule. They're in the minority. They were 2 of the 7 people that voted against getting around Tuberville's single-handed action here. So apparently they think he ought to be, and maybe them, be able to use that blue slip as they see fit and really gum up the works. People saying that this has an impact on military readiness, and yet our 2 Mississippi senators vote against getting past all these blocks. And speaking of Cindy Hyde-Smith, she's been blocking the judicial nomination of district attorney from Mississippi because he supported transgender rights and once received help from a political action committee funded by George Soros. So she says that's a crime in her book, and Scott Collum is the district attorney for Mississippi's 16th Circuit Court District in northeastern part of the state. He is a black man, the first black district attorney in that district and any majority white district in the state, according to Mississippi Free Press reports. President Joe Biden has nominated him to be a U.S. District Court judge for the Northern District in Mississippi. Under the Senate tradition, senators can block judicial nominees from their home states by refusing to grant approval by returning a piece of paper known as a blue slip to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, the Free Press explains. Hyde-Smith, a Republican, announced Tuesday she would not approve Collum's nomination, even though the other Mississippi Senator, Roger Wicker, already has. So she's really got it in for this black. Now, you're shocked on. I know you're shocked on that when you're listening to We Believe Newsbreak and hear about a white elected official trying to keep a black man that's fully qualified from a higher position. President Biden, obviously qualified to do the job, long-standing record, but because she doesn't like a couple of the things that he has supported, she's going to hold that up. Cindy Hyde-Smith. Remember, she's the one that says she wouldn't mind being on the front row of a hanging. Attended the Segregationist Academy, and now a U.S. Senator. Mississippi, still sizzling. So we're starting to wrap up from our first segment. We've got another 8 stories to go for the second segment. We'll get ready to cut out here for a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back with you.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
Welcome back to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. So glad you're here with us today. 57 degrees, heading for, looks like only 58 degrees here in Jackson. The little bit of rain that we had yesterday was very welcome, but we sure need more of that. We're going to pick up now on this Gaza Israeli-Gaza war. So much going on. There's so much information out there. It can be really overwhelming. Just try to pull a piece. NBC News does a piece called What We Know. And so it's a couple of paragraphs of information here and try to update you on that. Without all the extra bells and whistles. The Israeli military is raiding, this is as of this morning, raiding Al-Shifa, the Gaza Strip's main hospital, in what it said was a, quote, targeted operation against Hamas, unquote. The raid has intensified fears for hundreds of civilians, including dozens of premature babies, trapped in the complex as fuel, water, and food run out and dead bodies compose, if you can only imagine. But apparently the Hamas has, they set up camps, forts, and tunnels underneath the hospital of all things. The White House has called for patients to be protected, saying it did not, quote, want to see a firefight in a hospital, unquote, as the world sought updates from a site that has become a symbol of Palestinian suffering. It comes after the U.S. said it has, quote, information, unquote, that militants use hospitals, including Al-Shifa, and tunnels beneath them to hide in and keep hostages. An accusation long made by Israel but denied by doctors and Hamas. Israel said it had agreed to allow some fuel into Gaza for humanitarian operations for the first time since the war erupted, after growing pressure from aid groups and international leaders. More than 1.6 million people have been displaced in Gaza, and health officials there say more than 11,200 have been killed. 11,200 killed in Gaza. Israel says 1,200 were killed in the Hamas terrorist attack on October 27th. That number is down. Initially, it was 1,400. Now it's down to 1,200. Supposedly 239 people still being held hostage in Gaza. President Biden will meet face-to-face this morning with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on breaking a year-long silence marked by rising tensions that have stoked fears the two countries are on a path toward war. The summit will take place in San Francisco. The location declined to reveal out of security concerns. It's the first time that Biden and Xi have talked, much less met, since a meeting on the sidelines at an international summit in Bali, Indonesia, a year ago. President Biden will announce his intention today to nominate an attorney whose Senate confirmation would make him the first Muslim American judge to serve on a federal appeals court. The nominee, Adil A. Manji, has served on the board of directors of the Muslim Bar Association of New York, the Legal Aid Society of New York, and Muslims for Progressive Values, and as an ally board member for the National LGBT Bar Association, according to his bio page at the law firm Patterson, Belknap, Webb, and Tyler, where he's a partner. If he's confirmed, he would sit on the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals based in Philadelphia. The court covers Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and the Virgin Islands. So we'll see if the first Muslim American federal appeals court nominee gets through the Senate confirmation. Coming out of Boulder, Colorado, the defendant in the 2021 mass shooting at a Colorado supermarket pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity yesterday, as a judge ruled that the case can move to trial following testimony that the suspect killed 8 of his 10 victims in just over a minute using a gun with a high-capacity magazine. Attorneys for Ahmad Alawi Alisa entered the plea on his behalf before District Court Judge Ingrid Bake in Boulder. Clad in an orange and white striped jail uniform, Alisa looked down in court and at times at the judge as she advised him of his rights. A plea of not guilty by reason of insanity means that defense attorneys are claiming mental illness prevented him from understanding right from wrong when the crime was committed. If successful, it could allow Alisa to avoid prison and instead be committed indefinitely to the state mental hospital. He's charged with 10 counts of murder, 15 counts of attempted murder, and other offenses. Neither his attorneys nor anyone else has disputed Alisa was the gunman. A former campaign staffer for Representative George Santos, Republican of New York. Man, oh man, we've had to tell you about George Santos several times. His campaign staffer pleaded guilty Tuesday to a federal wire fraud charge stemming from his work for the embattled congressman. This guy's name is Samuel Mail, 27, charged in August with wire fraud and identity theft for having posed as a top aide to former Speaker Kevin McCarthy while he was raising money for Santos' 2022 campaign. Prosecutors said that he used the aide's identity with over a dozen potential donors, raising money for Santos while enriching himself through 15% commissions on each donation. In his plea, Mail also admitted that he charged credit cards without authorization for contributions and as well as himself. As part of the plea deal, prosecutors said he agreed to pay $109,000 in restitution, $69,000 in forfeiture, and $470,000 to a campaign contributor. He also faces a maximum of 20 years behind bars when he's sentenced on April 30th. Campaign staffer for Representative George Santos, who's being reviewed by the Ethics Committee now. Just a couple more stories, and we're going to be out for today. Again, from Washington, House lawmakers on Tuesday passed Speaker Mike Johnson's stopgap funding bill to avert a government shutdown, most likely punting the GOP spending fight until after the holidays. Isn't that nice? The vote was 336 to 95, 209 Democrats and 127 Republicans voting to support this stopgap funding. 93 Republicans voted against it, more than voted against the last government funding bill in September. So that gets pushed to January and February. When the government run out of money, those decisions get pushed to January and February. Also up there at the Puzzle Palace, Washington, D.C., at a Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee hearing, an argument almost turned into a fistfight between GOP Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma and the president of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien. The exchange occurred when Mullin, a former MMA fighter turned United States Senator, recalled an interaction he had with O'Brien in June on Twitter, now known as X. And, they started getting into it. And of all things, Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders broke it up. Reminding Markwayne Mullin, Markwayne, that's all one word, Markwayne Mullin, the GOP senator from Oklahoma, that he was a United States senator, imploring him to act better. When you have people come and testify before committees, it doesn't seem like an unusual thing where you have senators picking fistfights with them from the dais. And the final story for today goes to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's office. They're now seeking an emergency protective order after parts of videos from key witnesses in her election interference case against the former you-know-who and others were leaked to 2 news outlets. She says the release of these confidential video recordings is clearly intended to intimidate witnesses in this case, subjecting them to harassment and threats prior to trial. So people see these things and they're reminded of some of the things that the former president said that are on tape, part of the discovery process for the trial, and not just him. Statements that other people had to make can be very intimidating to potential witnesses. So they had parts of videotape statements from lawyers Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Kenneth Cheeseborough, and bail bondsman Scott Hall were made public to these 2 news sources. Ellis recounted Trump senior advisor Dan Scavino telling her in December that December prior to January 6th, he didn't care about the election results. We're not going to leave. We're not going to leave the White House, he had told Scavino. Well, in the end, he did leave the White House. Remember, he flew out on Air Force One. The first president in any kind of recent memory that didn't stay there for the swearing-in ceremony, the inauguration of the guy that beat him. What does that behavior remind you of? So there's no law that said he had to be there, but he flew out of town on Air Force One just an hour before the inauguration of President Biden, didn't attend the inauguration. What does that behavior remind you of? So in the last minute, I have to tell you, I'm hurting now on taking a look at these SWAC statistics. We're going to get back into this a little bit on Friday, But we got an awful big game coming up here Saturday, 2 o'clock at the Vet. The last game of the season. Alcorn coming in. Now, Alcorn got a record of 6-4. Jackson State got a record of 7-3. But in the conference, the two teams are tied, both at 5-2. Now, Jackson State in the SWAC East, Alcorn in the SWAC West. So what does all this mean? It looks as we stand here right now that unless something unforeseen were to happen, even if Jackson State wins this game, there's no chance for a playoff berth. But based on the conference records of of the teams ahead of them, and then the teams in the West, it could get dicey. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully have more insight for you on that on Friday's news break. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this hump day. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you back Friday at 12 noon.